Stepping into a leadership role for the first time comes with immense pressure. Most people are presented with what feels like an unavoidable choice. Do you try to be universally loved, or do you choose to be feared? Relying purely on being liked seems like the safest path, but when authority depends on personal generosity, it becomes a finite resource. The moment that generosity can no longer be extracted, or a directive becomes inconvenient, the team's willingness to follow vanishes. On the other extreme, leading through pure intimidation might secure immediate compliance, but it creates a fragile equilibrium. When authority relies entirely on fear, teams begin to look for the first opportunity to retaliate or cut corners the moment they can do so without personal cost. This tension is particularly acute for young professionals. When you hold authority for the first time, that lack of experience often creates a surge of anxiety that forces a choice. You either overcompensate by becoming overly accommodating to avoid conflict, or you become overly rigid to project control. But neither approach creates stable authority. Both are simply attempts to manage the emotions of the group rather than building a reliable, functional system. Niccolo Machiavelli is often remembered as a champion of manipulation. However, his writings reveal a clinical observer of political power, one who viewed leadership through the lens of historical data and evidence rather than personal malice. In his foundational text, he argues whether a team loves or fears you is secondary. True stability requires reliability. By studying Italian city-states, he noticed rulers lost power when their behavior became unpredictable, regardless of excessive leniency or harshness. Durable authority was not achieved by adopting a specific persona, but by establishing a behavioral standard that remained unbreakable and predictable. Modern organizational research confirms this historical observation. Michael Kosfeld and Ferdinand von Simons have spent years studying the specific mechanisms of trust and cooperation within professional hierarchies. Their research identifies behavioral predictability as the primary driver of cooperation. This matrix shows that while a leader's warmth or strictness varies, the degree of their consistency determines how the team responds. When a manager is warm and permissive but enforces standards inconsistently, cooperation collapses the moment work becomes difficult. If the team cannot predict when a rule will be enforced, they simply stop following the direction. Conversely, a manager who is consistently strict, applying the same standard in the same way every time, retains team compliance even during disagreements. Predictability allows the team to accurately anticipate the consequences of their own actions. Human beings are more likely to comply with a system, even a rigid one, as long as the outcomes are certain. Consistency is the actual engine of durable authority. Your personal warmth or severity is merely the style you apply to that underlying predictability. This timeline represents your own career trajectory. Your 20s are a critical window because this is when you first establish a reputation for how you handle authority, whether over a single project or a small team. The patterns of consistency or inconsistency you establish now will precede you into every future role. You are effectively training your peers and subordinates on what to expect from you as you move into higher positions. Without this early discipline, leadership remains tied to the individual rather than a standard. By age 40, if you haven't established a predictable baseline, your authority will depend on your daily mood, forcing your team to navigate your personality rather than your expectations. When a leader is unpredictable, teams stop trusting the system. Instead, they learn to professionally manage and manipulate the leader's moods just to get their work done. Career-spanning respect is the result of predictable decisions made during your earliest leadership roles. There is a vital limit to this principle. Consistency is a multiplier of whatever standard you choose, but it does not make a wrong standard correct. Relentlessly applying an unfair or biased rule does not build legitimate authority. It simply creates a system of predictable injustice. This is why you must rigorously audit your standards for fairness before you commit to applying them identically across the board. For a practical test this week, identify one standard you hold inconsistently, something you enforce when it's convenient and overlook when it's not. The next time that situation arises, apply the standard identically. Disregard your current mood, your relationship with the person, or the convenience of the moment. True leadership doesn't require demanding love or weaponizing fear.
It simply requires providing predictability, the baseline that makes consistent cooperation possible.